Hey guys, what's up? This is Paul with Mysterious Huntsman Podcast. Trying something new tonight. Let me know if you like it or not. I'm going to try and do some live chat stuff later on. And tonight, we've got a great guest and a new show, and of course, another Dogman show coming on. So we're going to listen to Ryan from Texas, who's got an incredible Dogman encounter. So let's just get started and welcome Ryan into the Mysterious Huntsman family. Hey Ryan, this is Paul from Mysterious Huntsman Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for spending your time and telling me your story. And when you reached out to me a while back, I've been trying to get in touch with you, but crazy times are happening right now, and I know you know that. But yeah, you have an incredible account, and it's coming from the great state of Texas, and I can't wait to hear it. So I'm just going to let you tell us a little bit about yourself if you want to, and then go into your story, because I know I can't wait to hear it, and I know everyone else out there can't wait to hear it.
That sounds good. Well, to start off, my name is Ryan. 40 years old. Married with 3 kids, and this all took place by Lake Conroe in Texas on the edge of the San Houston National Forest. And it started in September of 2019. My son had a dog that had 7 puppies. And I come home from work one day, and 2 of the puppies were missing. And, just being at the end of this neighborhood, we figured maybe somebody had come by and just snatched the puppies. So
Right.
We just kind of chalked it up as no big deal. And the next day went by. I went to work, same old thing, come home, and there was a lady who lived 2 streets over. She had come by and said that one of her dogs was missing. And, well, wow, we have dogs missing. And I talked to her for a few minutes, and she had told me that in the wood line by my house, she had seen what she thought was a wolf. And I asked her clearly, you mean like a wolf? And she said, yes, a big wolf. Well, we had been on this property for 7 years, and I had never seen or heard anything about wolves being in this area, let alone in the national forest. So the next day went by or whatever, and up at the top of the hill at a stop sign, I saw a sign posted, missing dog. Well, this was the 3rd person in this neighborhood that was missing a dog. So me and my wife thought this can't be just coincidence, something's going on. And we kind of put out signs for our dogs, and mind you, we had 7 puppies. Well, 2 of them were already gone. I'd come home from work the following day, and none of the puppies were around. We couldn't find any of them. The mother dog had run back to, in the back of our yard is a tree line, which is all national forest. So our entire backyard was national forest. The mother dog had ran back there and was barking, and me and my wife decided to go back there and see what it was. When we went back there, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. I called my dog, she come to me, and I just told my wife it must be nothing. And we turned around and went to go back, and she stopped me. And she said, hey, babe, look, look at this big X. And I turned around and looked, and sure enough, it was like this giant X made out of 2 trees. And I was like, wow, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And we went home, we started looking up, big X in the woods. Well, on the internet, if you look that up, it leads you right to Sasquatch, Bigfoot, this type of tree structure thing. And I was like, wow, what would be the odds, because as a child, every boy, most kids in general, you have that, that thought of, majestic creatures and magical this and, crazy things like that. And I remember watching In Search of and shows like that when I was a younger boy. So anyways, we didn't think too much of it, I researched the area a little bit. There have been reports of, Bigfoot, Sasquatch in that area. but not anywhere right close to where we were. So we didn't think nothing of it.
Yeah, and can I ask you a question real quick? That area, you've had reports in that area for hundreds of years, and I know that the X is kind of a marker. And I just wanted to ask you, could you tell, when you researched it, could you tell if these trees had been uprooted, or are they broken over, or do they have some kind of rot to them or anything?
Yeah, and I wish I would have thought about it beforehand, and I can send you a picture. My wife actually took a couple pictures of this X.
Oh, great.
And the weird thing is kind of like you're saying, there's two big holes in the ground, which we also took pictures of, where you can tell these trees were actually like pulled from the ground. And like one of the trees that makes up half the X, the roots are in the air.
Oh,
and then
really?
The other one just kind of, yeah, really. And then it kind of looks like the other one was laid across it. So, I mean, I tried to move the X myself. I mean, I'm 6'3", about 185 pounds. I couldn't even move one of the trees. So,
wow. Yeah, if you could send me those pictures, I'd love to have them, because I could post them with the video and let everyone see it.
Yeah, and I have one with me actually standing underneath the X, so you can kind of get an idea about how big it is. So we went on, and my wife was starting a new job. She was going to have to go out of town, and so we decided that we were going to go and eat dinner, me and my wife, before she had to leave, and we left the kids at home. My oldest daughter wasn't there at the time, but my son and my youngest daughter were there. We went about 2 miles down the road to a little Mexican restaurant to go eat, and not as soon as we ordered our food, I got a phone call from my son, and he was crying, and we asked him, what's the matter? And he was screaming at the top of his lungs that something was on the roof. And I was like, what? And he's like, something's on the roof. We had knew that, with the dogs disappearing and the weird things that were starting to happen, we didn't even finish our food. We got in the car, we ran home, we got there. There was nothing on the roof. We didn't see anything. He was in the bathroom with his sister, locked in the bathroom. We got them out, and everything seemed fine. But, I mean, things started to get weird around there. Like, I also have a paw print, or what I feel is a paw print, on the window of my truck. And what I did is I took a picture of it normal, with just the print in normal light. And then I turned my AC on so the windows would fog up so you could get a better view of this print. And it just looks like a huge print with like the four claws on it is what it actually looks like. So I could actually send you this picture as well.
Yeah, I'd love that. Man, that was very intuitive, very smart to get it to frost up like that to get a better picture.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of. So, we took that picture, and things started to change after that, where we would lay down and get ready to go to bed, and my oldest daughter, her room we lived in a trailer house at the end of this dirt road. And as I said, our backyard was the national forest. Well, outside her window was just nothing but trees. That's all you could see. And one night she had come into our room, and mind you, she's 18. So she come in our room and she was crying, saying that something was outside her window. And she said that whatever was outside her window was growling and making weird noises. Well, me being the father and the man, I figured I need to go out there and see what it is. And when I went outside, I didn't see anything, of course. Well, by this time, we're all starting to get a little freaked out. So we ended up putting 2 extra locks on our front door. And I bought my first handgun and a spotlight. And trying to make everybody feel a little bit more better about being at home. And, when you're at home, you don't think you have to put up with anything like this.
Right.
But my wife, a few days later, she went out of town, and it was just me and my son at home. My 2 daughters were at a friend's house or whatever, and my son was playing video games. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but there was a big bang on our door. I mean, boom, loud bang, so hard that it shook the floor. And my son, I mean, he's 13, but he jumped up and he yelled profanities, like, Dad, what the was that, And I was like, I don't know. And as soon as I said that, it was another boom on the back door. I mean, it scared the holy crap out of me. I thought whatever was hitting the back door was about to come in. I called my wife, and as soon as I got on the phone, she could hear the banging, in the background. Boom, boom, what is that? And I was trying to tell her. She was instantly terrified and mad, that we're having to deal with this, and it was just me and my son, and, I was trying to be strong for him, but I was scared myself, like, I didn't know what to do. I had that handgun, but, I wasn't about to go outside or look. And then it just stopped. Just out of the blue stopped. And my wife had come home from her job interview a day or two later, and, we spoke about it, like, what is all this that's going on? Why now? We've been here 7 years. Nothing that or maybe we didn't pay attention at the beginning. I'm not real sure. But why now? And she brought up a good point that when we researched the Giant X and what some people believe that it is, a marker of some sort, or X meaning stay out, I'm not sure. But she brought that up, like, we went back there, when that X was put up, or while it was up, we went back there. She said, well, maybe we weren't supposed to go back there. And if you think about it, it kind of sounds like nonsense, like, we're supposed to be the apex people, in the woods, and here we are. We can't even go back in our own backyard.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that we are the apex predator, and we probably used to be, but we're finding things now, or people are reporting things now that are changing everyone's mind on that,
You're exactly right, and I'll touch on that here in just a little bit. With when I got to, as a week or two went by, we'd been staying inside, and I kind of told my kids about things that were going on, and they weren't real big believers. They, yeah, right, Dad, thinking that maybe just all the stuff that I had been listening to and looking at online, that it was just getting to my head. And that wasn't the case. I was actually afraid for them as I was afraid for myself. And one night, my oldest daughter, she was going on a date, and she was going to come home past midnight, and me and my wife would be asleep. And I asked her, I begged her, I was like, please, 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 please get dropped off in the driveway. Do not get dropped off at a house down from ours or whatever and walk home. And she didn't listen. She got dropped off a few houses down. This was like at 12:30 at night. And I knew nothing about this, except for the next day she had come into our room crying. We had to go out there and get her shoes, because in the middle of the night when she got dropped off, she said something was in the woods right there by her, and it scared her so bad she literally ran out of her shoes, left her shoes, her bag, everything in the middle of the road, and ran home and never went back for them. So we went out there the next day and got her stuff, and then that's what made her a believer. And as things started to progress, my children started to see that we weren't just full of tall tales, I mean, when you're younger, everybody's parents tell their kids, monsters aren't real and you have nothing to worry about. And I'm not exactly saying whatever's out there is monsters, but they're far more smarter and stronger than I think we know.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
I was going to say she's braver than I am to be dropped off, at 12:30 at night, and walk. But
yeah, and
regardless
simply
of
because
no, I was just going to say
because she didn't believe,
right, and regardless of what's out there, monster wise, cryptid wise, legend, lore, whatever. I was a police officer for about 15 years. I mean, they're real monsters out there too. They're human bad guys, so you got to be careful. Right. You always got to be on, it's sad to say, but you have to always be on alert, and for the things that are real and things that we think that are not real. So, yeah,
exactly right.
She's very brave.
And as a parent, you cross that threshold where, you want to let them live a little, and
Right.
experience things on their own. Yet, in the back of your mind, you're still a parent, and it's your job to protect them till the end.
Sure.
So, we spoke with her, and she understood after all of that, and that was a good thing, because after that, she never got dropped off. She made sure she was brought right up to the house, et cetera, et cetera. Well, during this second week, my son's dog, she had gone down to put a picture for you. The house we were at sits at the end of this dirt road, and it takes a sharp right, and this back road goes along the edge of the Sam Houston National Forest. My dog, every morning, I would get up, I'd get up about 4 a.m. and go sit on my porch. And I would just go out there before work, just to sit out there and collect my thoughts and, prepare myself for the day. My dog would go to the corner down here and just raise hell, just sit down there and just bark and bark and bark and bark, and I could not figure out why. I talked to my wife. We just couldn't figure out why the dog was doing that. And this was, 4 days straight, this dog every morning would run straight to that corner every morning and just bark, 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 and I couldn't figure out why. I'd walk out there, take a look. Now, I never actually went down to the corner, but I'd walk out to the road, I'd take a look. I didn't see anything. I just started barking, and that was it. Well, one morning, it was the same thing. I got up for work, 4 a.m., hour went by or whatever, my dog's down there barking. This time I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually go down there, and I'm going to take a look. So I put my sandals on. I started walking in that direction. I see my dog. She's probably about, 40, 50 yards from me. I can see her at the corner barking, 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 and she stops. And she turns and she looks down the road where I said it makes a right, and she takes off. Just running, barking, running. Like, man, she's after something. This was not a big dog. She was like just a small mutt, just a small mix. Just no bigger than knee height. And she took off running. Well, I decided to jog so I could see what she was chasing. And right as I took a right and I rounded the corner, I saw the dog get yanked into the woods, right into the tree line. Now, I could not see how or why she flew into the tree line, but I saw the back end of her legs, her tail, everything get yanked into the woods, and I heard that yelp. And I was like, what the heck? So I took off running in that direction as fast as I could in sandals. And mind you, it's a loose sand back there, loose dirt sand. And when I took off running, something right at the edge of the tree line, all my attention was focused on this dog. So I really wasn't, sad to say, paying attention to anything else around me. And that's kind of not like me. But I knew my dog was in trouble, and I took off running. And right to the left of me at the tree line, something took off. Took off from a dead standstill and was just crashing through the tree. And it startled me so bad that I literally jumped, away from that noise, and I stopped. And when I stopped, it stopped. And I immediately lost focus on the dog, because the direction I was looking, I knew something was there, but I could not see it. And I think what frightened me the most is that when I stopped, it stopped. And it was almost like, because I was running in the direction of the dog, whatever this was, I don't know. Maybe it was running to stop me or to protect whatever I was running after. All I know is that there was two things there, because something got my dog, and then something was right next to me in the tree line. I was so scared that I turned around and I ran back home. My sandals were just right there in the middle of the road, and I hopped in my truck. I figured I'd be safer in my truck, so I got in my truck. I backed up. I went down there, hurried up, and I got right down to the edge of the tree line where I saw my dog disappear. And as I went to put my truck in park, it died. Now, mind you, my truck has never died. Never, ever, ever. It just died. Just died right out of the blue. And I wasn't scared off until the point when I opened my door and I stepped out. It was like I was just instantly, for a grown man, you know, you don't really like to admit it, but just I was just overcome with fear. Like I felt like whatever was there that took my dog, there was one on one side of the road and one on the other side of the road. And I was trembling, you know, and I didn't move. I was standing in between my door and the cab of my truck, and it was complete silence, just completely silent. And the sun was already starting to come up, and I yelled my dog's name. Her name was Daisy. I yelled her name a couple times. Nothing. No noise, no yelping, no whining, no crying, nothing. I mean, just nothing. And I was shook so bad that I started crying, and I called my wife right then and there. She was at work, and I called her hysterical. You know, I told her, I was like, I couldn't save her. And she was like, what are you talking about? So, you know, I'm crying. She's trying to get me to calm down. I said, I couldn't save her. Something took her. And my wife's in the middle of work. I'm trying to explain to her something took her. She don't really know what I'm talking about. And anyway, she had to let me go. So I sat there and I stood right there in between the door and the cab of my truck. And I stood there. I was afraid to move. I knew that I needed to pop the hood of my truck and check the battery, but I was too afraid to go around there. And I thought to myself, I'll just wait for a car to come. You know, I know that if a car comes by, then I can hop out and there won't be no issues, but no car ever came. Nobody ever, you know, come walking by. No car drove by. Finally, I had to muster up enough strength, and I ran around there, popped the hood of my truck, and I turned the battery cable, and my truck started. I can't say that something made my truck die or it was just the battery cable, because when I turned the battery cable, the truck started. So I'd never had that issue before, but that's the details of why the truck died. And I made it back home. And later that day, when my wife got home from work, we walked over there, which I wasn't so afraid with her with me. And, you know, you get this sense of, you know, I was afraid by myself, but, you know, if you have your wife or your kids with you, you know, you almost become bulletproof, you know, because you have to be protective over them.
Sure.
You know, and with her with me, I felt comfortable to walk over there, you know, and I showed her exactly where the dog was yanked into the woods. And, you know, we walked a few feet in there, you know, and there was just no signs of fur. You know, you would think that if the dog was taken by a big cat, a wolf, or anything, that there would be signs, you know, a scuffle, fur, blood, something. There was just nothing. Just the dog was just gone. And it made no sense. And if it wasn't for my wife, because I was so out of it and excited, and just the day for me was just crazy. You know, she had spotted these tracks that were in the sand. And if I remember correctly, she has pictures, but you really can't make anything out, because, like I said, that it was a real loose type of sand. But you could see that you could see my dog's tracks, and then you could see this set of tracks next to the dog. And what it looks like to me is that when the dog took off running, something ambushed her from behind. But when I tried to walk in the tracks, you know, remind you, I'm 6'3", so my stride is pretty wide. You know, I couldn't step in these tracks. So whatever it was, you know, was far taller than me, or could lunge farther than me. I'm not really sure how to explain that, but
well, yeah,
that, you know,
I was going to say, as we know, as pack animals, they like to hunt. You know, that they're smart about it. They'll flank, you know, they'll help each other out. They'll flank. They'll guide their prey into another area, just so they can have an advantage over that. But what stands out to me is when it stops, when you stop. No predator out there is intelligent enough to stop when you stop moving. You know what I mean?
Right. And I don't think I thought about that, you know, like till afterwards, but, you know, your survival instincts kick in, you know, and I think that's what scared me the most, is when I stopped it stopped. And whatever was there when it was running through the brush, I mean, it was like nothing could stand in its way. I mean, it was just crashing, just boom, 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 just through these. I mean, it's thick stuff, and it just stopped. I mean, not a sound, and I couldn't see. I mean, the tree line literally was 15 foot from my truck. I could not see anything standing back there, and it sounded like the sound was right there, like right there on the edge of where it sounded like, but there was just nothing there. So, you know, we just chalked it up that, you know, we had something out here and we couldn't explain what it was, you know, and you know, all these signs and everything that we had researched, believe it or not, led to, you know, this cryptid Bigfoot or Sasquatch, you know, and to think that, you know, you might be the one to have an encounter or something happen to you is just, it's unfathomable, you know. So, you know, we talked to our kids and, you know, we explained to them what was going on. And, you know, we had to let them know because, you know, they're old enough that they start, you know, they're doing their own thing and come and go. You know, my two oldest daughters come and go as they please. And I didn't want them, you know, getting hurt. I wasn't really sure what we were up against.
Right.
And so we, I'd say it was like a day or two went by. And every morning after this, I was real skeptical about being outside when the sun went down, and I wanted everybody inside at a certain time, and I didn't want anybody walking around outside. And, you know, I became this, I don't know, this big chicken, for lack of a better word. And I was outside this next morning, and I would sit out there with the spotlight and I would just look and watch the tree line and looking for anything, you know, I was just spooked out at this point. The whole thing on the dirt road with, you know, taking the dog and what I'd seen, and it really got to me. And, you know, my wife understood, but she really doesn't understand because she wasn't there. You know, I was there and I felt I felt that feeling. I knew something was there even without seeing it. You just know.
Yeah.
You know, that feeling that something's there or you're being looked at, you just have that sense.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on that. You say that feeling you had. Did you have any odd feelings like that were other than just being afraid? And I mean, like, did you feel like there were feelings of dread or even like evil or anything like that?
I wouldn't really say evil because I really wasn't sure what I was up against or what was out there. But the dread, the fear, yeah, I definitely had that. And even retelling that part of the story, you know, makes me short on breath, and, you know, it gets my heart pumping to where, you know, it affects me to a point to where, you know, I feel like I've been affected by something. And, you know, a lot of times I don't recall ever feeling like this, you know, ever at any point in my life.
Right.
And
you
know,
no, I was just going to say it takes a lot fear usually will elicit a fight or fight response in people. And when I think when you have feelings of dread that kind of creep into that, which is it's a little different. I think there's something.
It is, you know?
I think there's something a little different at work there when you have dread come over you, like there's I can't fight or I can't flight. There's something in there that's causing just a little more panic than it should. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's exactly what makes me feel so terrible about all of this is that, you know, being a 40-year-old guy and like any other guy, you know, you're not really afraid of much, you know, let alone anything really for that matter. But all this changed that, you know, and in the actual encounter, you know, which I'm about to get to, is what solidified it for me. And I mean, it just changed me. And, you know, my wife saw it and everybody else saw it. And, you know, they know that how it's affected me, and everybody's pretty calm and and carrying on the subject because they know that how it got to me. And but anyways, that morning I was out there, and it was the same deal. 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting outside on my porch, and I'm spotting the tree line with the spotlight, and I happen to look over at this one area across from our yard, and over there was this line of trees, and I seen this set of eyes, this set of green eyes, and when I shine the spotlight on there, you could see they were huge green eyes, big bright green eyes, and it was just the head of this thing peeking around the tree, and I couldn't really see any more than that at this point in time. But the scary part was the look, like the actual look of this thing, the way that it looked, and it was just staring at me. And like I'll never forget the eyes. It was the biggest set of green eyes I'd ever seen, and it was the biggest wolf head I've ever seen. And this thing was gray, and I sat there. It seemed like a minute or two as we looked at each other, and the next thing I know, believe it or not, this thing grabbed the tree right there that it was peeking around and proceeded to stand up. And at that point, I was shaking. The light in my hand was shaking. I was shaking. And I really wasn't understanding what I was looking at or what was going on. And this thing I could see because of how it was standing on the tree line. I could see from the upper half of its torso up. I could see these pointy ears, a snout, shoulders, all the way down to the wrist. I really couldn't see much past the torso down, but this thing was just standing there. And I was reaching behind me. When I had the light in my right hand, I'm reaching behind me, feeling for the doorknob on my front door. And I was just kind of in this stupor, this trance. Like, what am I looking at, and what is it doing? And it took 2 steps toward me, and I woke up right then. I snapped out of it. I grabbed my doorknob. I ran inside, and I was going to go get my wife. And I was thinking to myself, I have to get my wife so she can see this, so somebody knows that I'm not seeing things, that this thing is for real. I ran inside, and I shook my wife, and I said, "Babe, you have to come out here." And she said that at that moment she could hear in my voice that something was completely different. Normally if I would have woke her up at that time, she'd been mad. But she said she could tell by the way I spoke that something was wrong with me. And she sat up out of bed. I said, "You have to come out here and see this." And I just knew that by the time, the 15 steps we took from our bedroom to the front door, I just knew that this thing would be gone. Why would it still be there? And I walked my wife out to the front door, and lo and behold, when I opened the front door, I turned the spotlight over to it, and there it stood, and the look on my wife's face, said it all. She was seeing exactly what I was seeing. And she was just instantly just in shock. You could just see it, and to know that, you're looking at something you don't really, it's just so hard to explain. At this whole point, we were thinking, like something like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and this didn't look anything like what we had seen online or research. This thing was gray, it was big, had green eyes, and after a few seconds of looking at it, it proceeded to drop down on all fours and walk the tree line back to the backyard, part of the national forest, and disappear.
Wow.
And
did you happen to see, you said it reached up and grabbed the tree. Did you happen to see if it had regular hands like man, or did it have a paw or some kind of claws or anything?
No, it looked like, it looked like fingers with claws, but
Okay.
not like a dog paw, almost like a hand with claws. And I really couldn't tell if it was using the tree to stand up or if it was just holding the tree as it stood up, but it stood up with ease. Like, it didn't take seconds, it stood up like you or I would stand up.
Right. Could you tell an approximate height?
Well, yeah, see, after all this was said and done, my wife and I, our front porch is 3 foot off the ground, and me being 6'3", we took a measuring tape out there, and I come up with 8 foot tall. My wife says it's a little taller, but I think it was around 8 foot tall, given the 3 foot of the porch I was standing on, plus my 6 foot height. I'm guessing around 8 foot tall.
All right. Have you spoken with any nearby neighbors, or has anybody else seen or heard anything in that area? Or have they lost livestock or other pets?
No, after that, we were too skittish to actually speak to anybody about it. And as far as livestock, not that I'm aware of, but just I don't know, it was probably about 8 dogs in total that went missing, from beginning to end. And that's pretty much all that happened at the start. Was just, as far as animals or livestock go, yeah, it was just the dogs.
All right. And you don't, I know we talked earlier, but did you say you'd recently moved, or did you tell us that earlier?
Yeah, we moved a mile or two down the road.
Okay. Have you experienced anything since then, or anything recent?
No, and this is actually on the opposite side of the lake, where the side we were on is we were backed up to the forest. We moved across Lake Conroe over here, where there's less trees, less forested area.
Oh, I got you. So it probably feels safer to hide or just kind of stay in the shadow, stay in the tree lines and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, man, that's an incredible account. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think an important thing for people, to know is that as hard as it is to believe, that there is something out there. I can't say what it is, or I can only tell you what it looked like, what I saw. I can't explain, what they are, who they are, or what they, where they came from. But, just for somebody to know that there is something out there. Before all this, I would have went out there, nonchalant like any other person. Day, night, it wouldn't matter. Now it's left its touch on me to where, I won't go out there at night anymore. And I probably wouldn't go during the day unless I had somebody with me.
Yeah, I don't know if I blame you there. So, and I was going to ask, did you grow up in Texas?
Yes, I did.
All right. Because, yeah, I'm sure you've heard the stories of Bigfoot around that area and the Big Thicket.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with that now. Yeah, we did a lot of looking into that.
Yeah, and I told you earlier, I did some work down in Houston maybe last year, a couple of years ago, and I wanted to get up to the areas you're talking about now, as well as the Big Thicket area. But I couldn't get away from work, and also I couldn't get anyone to go with me, and I wasn't going up there by myself, and I flew in, didn't have a weapon with me, so I wasn't going to just ride around at night by myself in that place. But yeah, that whole area has so many reports of Bigfoot and actually Dogman. And I know if you listen to some of the Dark Waters, if you're familiar with him out of New Orleans.
I've heard him.
Yeah, if you listen to some of the accounts that other people have talked about Dogman in the area you're talking about around Texas and Sam Houston, they're possibly related to the First Nations or Native American people, maybe could be part of the skinwalker lore, but I'm not sure. I mean, you're right. There's so many theories out there about what these things are, and we can't know. I mean, like I said, there's too many theories to discuss, and but I really appreciate you coming on telling this account. It's incredible and scary all at the same time.
And thank you for having me. And like I said, I just want people to know, that if you do go out there, whether you believe or not, just keep it in the back of your mind. Keep an eye out for anything that looks strange or that doesn't seem rational to you, because most likely it's not rational.
Right.
Being humans, we try to rationalize everything, as just like I did with a lot of the situations we had, and there was no rational explanation, so I had to look elsewhere.
Yeah, and a lot of people I've spoken with, they say, just like you said, they're not sure what they're looking at first, so their mind tries to make sense of what's going on, and it'll kind of trick you at first until you realize exactly what's going on, and that's when everything starts to set in.
Yeah, and when it sets in, I think that's what finalizes it, for at least for me, and after the first week, I was afraid every little noise that I would hear outside would set me off, or I was afraid to sleep by my bedroom window, and it just took me a while to get over that initial fear that something like that was out there.
Right. And I know I told this story a while back on a prior podcast, but I grew up in southern Alabama, and I grew up in the woods, not a whole lot to do. And this was back in the 80s. There wasn't anything to do. But I grew up camping, and I did a little bit of hunting. I'm really not into hunting, but I know as I grew older, I wound up going to around Huntsville to Monsanto National Park, or actually above there on some bluffs. And I was waiting on some friends to come to the campsite. I went in earlier that day. I was gathering firewood, and I was completely alone. And I've never had any kind of sightings or anything. But this is the only thing that I could attribute to maybe some kind of fear or dread, that I was being watched. And I've never had this, and I think I was probably in my early 20s, wasn't scared of much. Been in the woods my whole life, and as I was gathering firewood, just a fear came over me, and I couldn't describe it, and it almost felt like something bad was about to happen, and that I was being watched. So I sat down, put my back against the tree, grabbed my Glock, and I just sat there kind of in a ready gun position, because I didn't really know what was about to happen. And it just, oddly enough, it just passed. And I've never had that happen before, and I've never had it happen since. And I know there's something called infrasound that maybe sometimes that people theorize that these creatures, these cryptids, Bigfoot, Dogman, will give off to instill fear. And I know, it's been scientifically proven that lions and some of your larger predators can give out this low, whatever you call it, low growl or hum or whatever that kind of paralyzes their prey. And so, yeah, that's my little account. But, man, greatly appreciate you coming on. And I hope that all you guys are safe and healthy and during these crazy times. And I just wanted to get back on this horse and start putting out some podcasts, because I know people, if they're like me, they're tired of hearing about this virus thing going on. And yeah,
absolutely,
it's real and scary, but you know what? We need to just relax and just take a break from it, or I have to. Absolutely. At least.
I agree.
But with that said, man, do you have any other stories you'd like to tell? Any other kind of odd, or I'm just kind of opening up the floor here if you have any kind of other paranormal stuff that's happened to you?
Not myself personally. My wife has had a few things that she ran into on the same property. She's not actually here right at this moment, but no, actually, I don't have anything else really.
Okay. Well, we'll have to have her on one day. Just ask her if she's willing to tell her side of the things.
Okay.
All right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much, and I hope you guys, stay safe and down there and healthy. And we will just talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, and take care.
All right. Thanks, man. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Mysterious Huntsman. And thanks, guys, for tuning in, listening in, and watching. And I thought I'd try something new tonight with just some kind of different video. And I think I'm going to try and do a live stream chat really soon, just to answer some questions, because I told Ryan I'm getting a lot of questions asked, of different things and different topics. And maybe the best way to do that is just to have it on here, and you can just chat and send me the questions. And again, thank you for coming and listening in. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, send me an email, mysteriousHuntsman@gmail.com, or you can check me out Facebook, my website page. I'm definitely on YouTube and Instagram and anything else I can just kind of put myself out there with. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and we will talk soon. Stay safe.